Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. We're really excited to bring this topic to you along with our panelists. Today's topic will be how to master tech-forward premium guest experiences. As most people on this call know, you're not really going to be that successful long-term as a property management company unless you really kind of tighten the screws on your guest experience. It all starts with our guests and their enjoyment in those units in your rentals, and then kind of carrying on that goodwill moving forward through reviews and reputation that you'll be able to capitalize long-term to grow your business. A little bit about me. I'm coming at you from Los Angeles, California. I'm Guesty's VP of Customer Success. I've been with the company now for almost 4 years and been enjoying every day working with property management companies in this vertical. About our panelists today, we're going to kick things off with Chet Persaud. He's the CEO of KFE Management. We'll follow that up with Suneel Goud. He's the VP of Global Innovation and Business Development at GuestView. And then we'll hear from Thomas Schaper, the head of product at Dack. But before we get into those, I'll start with a few little data slides about what we're seeing in terms of reservation data over this upcoming holiday season. And then we'll get to the presentations from our panelists. And then lastly, we'll conclude with a panel discussion. So Thanksgiving's right around the corner, next Thursday, I believe, a week from today. And so what are we seeing right now? In terms of booking volume, we are seeing 6% higher booking volume than we did last year. Also, the average nightly rates have held firm, more or less. We've seen a 2% increase, which is great. So we are still booking at those higher ADRs, and the volume is up a little bit for this season. When we get into the Christmas season, when we're looking at both the US and the UK, the United States is already 18% higher than where it was in 2021. What that means is that if we looked at November, what is it today, the 17th of 2021, and we look at November 17th of 2022, we're already seeing 18% higher occupancy for the Christmas season. We're also seeing kind of that 4% higher in ADRs and 47% higher than in 2019 on those ADRs. Inflation, anyone? Also, on the UK side, we're seeing massive growth in occupancy at this current time in the UK, 50% higher than where it was in 2021. And then also they're seeing stability across their ADRs in the UK as well, of an average of around £300 per night, significantly higher than where it was in 2019. And then lastly, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're talking about New Year's already. Where did 2022 go? But we are seeing kind of high ANRs for New Year's Eve already at above $300 per night. And that's essentially 23% higher than where we were last year. So if you have some occupancy or availability right now on New Year's Eve in some of your listings, feel free to maintain a really high ANR for that New Year season. Chances are it is going to book at a higher daily rate. That's enough of Paul talking. Chet, let's hear what KFE Management's doing.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Chet Persaud. I am the CEO of KFE Management. So who is KFE Management? KFE Management is a division of KFE Group, which is a real estate investment company. It started as a native real estate investment company, but there was a curiosity of joining the short-term rental market. So back in 2019, with the first purchase of the first home, that was started on Airbnb, grew to about 12 homes by the beginning of 2021. Now at that point, we were using a property management company down here in South Florida, probably the best of its kind, but it wasn't providing the guest experience and the stay quality that we wanted to have for our customers. So we decided to bring it in-house so that we can control the end-to-end guest experience. So let me jump to the slide about us. So the first homes that we started with were smaller homes, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom homes. I don't even believe they had a pool. So we had decided to put in a pool. Over the next year and a half, we purchased more homes, also 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, and then we started growing. So we purchased our first 8-bedroom, and that's when we realized there's a niche in the market for these larger homes. And since then, we've grown to about 100 homes in the past year. What makes us a little bit unique is that these homes are owned by us. So it's something where we can control everything, guest experience as well as quality of the house, maintenance, any type of requests that are needed. We can make that decision on the fly. Makes it easier, makes us react faster. So when we look at guest experience, during that time of hyper growth, we were not using technology. We were using Schlage locks, and we had someone whose job it was to manually change the locks after every guest stay. So they literally had a route based on checkouts to go in and change combinations. Thermostats were located in South Florida, so in the summer it gets pretty hot, and guests like to lower the thermostats to mid-60s, if not lower. Driving energy costs through the roof, driving a lot of maintenance on the systems because it would freeze or any type of issues that would happen. And overall, it's something we needed to do because we were so focused on growth. Our first conference was actually Guestival back in August or September, I think it was August. And that opened our eyes to technology. We understood there was technology out there, but we just had never really looked into it because we were so focused on how can we add more homes, how can we manage the guests using the knowledge we had. So when we look at what the guest experience is, there's a few components that we need to capture and make sure that are controlled from end to end, and that starts at the listing phase. So listings need to be clear, concise. We put all of the house rules in the listing to make sure no guest is surprised if we tell them, hey, you can't actually throw a party in our mansion, even though you want to, because that's just the feel that you get when you come to Miami or South Florida and you're in a mansion. Another big thing is the immediate response and making sure that when a guest reaches out, we're answering quickly and accurately. We've seen the market significantly grow in South Florida. I would say it's about 50% more than it was this time last year. All that means for us is there's more competition. So how do we elevate ourselves to make sure that we stand above anybody else that's doing it within our area and as we expand in those areas? Understanding a guest's needs is key because you might come to South Florida for a variety of reasons. We have vacations, honeymoons, weddings, negative things as well, funerals, people are in hospitals, and every one of those has a different emotional reaction to events within the home. So we try and make sure we understand so we can provide that type of custom care to our guests. Setting expectations, the rules for the homes, anything that they need, and seasonal impacts. For example, over the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we've had 2 tropical storms and hurricanes come in. We had bookings that happened during those times. So we wanted to make sure that they were aware step by step what they needed to do, what they needed to look for, and how that might impact their stay. Now, all of these things that we're doing are pretty manual. One of the only key pieces of automation that we were using was the automation feature, the workflows through Guesty for guest communication. Everything else was manual, reaching out to the guest after if they have any questions, providing the guest book, the code for the door, any type of instructions on how to use the induction stoves, the pool heaters. And we had to do it manually because we didn't take any time to invest in technology. The amount of time it takes to get up and running seems high because it's something we didn't know. Now that we know better, it seems like we should have done this in the beginning when we had 5 or 6 homes. We learned the hard way, but now we know better. But we also have a wider variety of technology available to us. Using that technology, we're able to quickly respond to guest issues because realistically, you only have one opportunity to make sure a negative experience doesn't impact the entire stay. For example, if an AC is broken or not working, you really only have one chance to fix it before the guest then complains the AC wasn't working for my stay, even if you fixed it the second day out of their 8-day stay. The first call resolution is key. That takes me to the next step, which is technology. How do we actually utilize the technology that we've learned about to enhance the guest experience? So digital locks We now can sync it to our calendar so that a new code is generated after every guest. We don't have to manually do that, and we can reference it in a dashboard. We've set up systems to automate the thermostats so that after a guest checkout, before a guest check-in, that will automatically be managed through whatever rules we set up to reduce the temperature and increase the temperature to prevent us having to spend more in utilities during that time. Guest communication verification, as well as guidebooks, how to use amenities. There's software that we never even knew existed that produce beautiful links or apps that enable us to customize that home so that it's not generic, turn the stove on using the power button. No, here's a video on how to use the stove. Here's a video on how you walk to the pool heater. One thing that we've done that I'm not sure is really done by the market is we actually have a concierge on staff. Somebody who has 26 years in the industry within South Florida, knows every person who charters boats, every person to get into nightclubs, private chefs, and masseuses. Now, these are things that we offer to our more affluent homes when you have celebrities or people that are willing to spend money on these experiences. They want their hands held. They want that personal touch. They want to be able to say, hey, I need a boat on this date and this time, and it pulls up to the dock on that date and that time, and they don't have to worry about it. And that's something that's an amazing amenity that we offer to our higher end homes. Now, the thing is, we want to take those same amenities and offer them to our mid-range homes, our families that are here on vacation, their once-a-year vacation, but they don't necessarily have the budget to be able to do that, private yacht or private chef, but they still want some type of amenity. So what we do is, using technology, we created a menu of items, and we can assign different options to different homes so that when a guest comes in, or even at the time of booking, they can check the box for, hey, I would like some groceries at the home. We reach out, find out, and we have that waiting for them. And it's not a high cost because we have enough time to prep for it. Other things like a masseuse. Seems like it might be expensive to have somebody come to your house to do it, but because it's such a booming business down here, it's really not. And that's something we can offer to those mid-level guests as well. So the goal that we wanted to do is we wanted to bridge the mid-level and high-level homes to try and grant a similar experience, but not necessarily at the same price point. So we're able to do that using technology, because instead of having to rely on our concierge to reach out to every guest that books, we can automate a lot of these workflows through these applications to enable us to offer that same premium experience without the overhead cost to us. Some of the apps that we're using, Lynx, which is for our home automation for smart locks and thermostats. We're using TouchStay, which is a software that doesn't require you to download an app. It's web-based. One of the biggest things that we found is people don't necessarily like downloading applications. So getting a message with a link, and that link is a customized guidebook, has been a game changer. And then properly for home maintenance allows us to quickly assign issues to our teams so they can react within an hour or 2 hours to fix it. So the goal that we had when we started was hypergrowth. Get as many homes as we could, get them on the platform, figure out how we can monetize any of the knowledge that we have, and enhance the guest stay. What we've done recently is we've taken a step back and looked at how can we become more efficient, using the homes that we have, maximizing our ADR, maximizing our product output, and making sure that the guest experience is consistent and great so that they continue to return. Last year to this year, for the holiday season, we've added probably around 30 to 40 homes. What that has enabled us to do is we've had a lot of guests that stayed with us in the past. The homes that they stayed at are no longer available. We can then push our new products toward them, and they trust the experience they had with us to be able to stay in these homes and have a great time. Word of mouth, spread it, and we've actually been getting a ton of bookings just from people that have said, hey, my friend stayed at one of your homes, gave me your number, can we rent one? So we're looking for that type of consistent guest experience, and as we enhance it with technology, it makes it easier for us to manage, which then enables us to scale probably faster than we probably did last year without as much headache. So yeah, that's our story. We continue to grow. We're based out of South Florida. We have homes in Pennsylvania, New York, and the goal is to be international. So we are always looking to take on properties. We're always looking to enhance the properties that we have and just offer the best product on the market. So thank you guys for listening.
Hey, Chet, thank you very much for that. I think that there was a ton of really great nuggets in there. I took notes on first call resolution. It seems like that's one of those type of service areas to the guest where it spans across all guest personas, regardless if it's luxury or middle tier kind of accommodations. That first call resolution is just so critical, and it's so critical for an organization to kind of track their ability to actually resolve things the first time around.
Yeah, what we found was, I know like Airbnb was originally the majority of our bookings, and they give you 24 hours to fix any major issues unless it's potentially dangerous to the guest. But what we found is, yeah, we can tell a guest we have 24 hours to fix it, so calm down, we'll be there when we'll be there within the next day. Not many people like that response.
Yeah.
So what we decided to do is we decided to be a little bit more reactive. So as soon as they let us know, we categorize it internally. Is it an emergency? Is it not an emergency? And is it something even that we can even handle? So for example, we have homes that require propane. First home we bought, we didn't realize that it was on propane. Propane ran out when the guest was there. What can we do? The company has a week delay in getting us a tank. So our maintenance person figured out, well, we can use the small propane, the 50-pound ones.
Yeah.
Use an adapter, and literally we're just swapping out tanks 2 times, 3 times a day, just to make sure their experience wasn't hampered. They didn't even know we were doing it. They just thought, okay, they fixed the problem. So it's like little things. You have to be creative, and you just have to make sure that you're doing the best that you can to provide a guest with a consistent experience.
Yeah, it's almost actually like when those types of things go awry, your ability to resolve it quickly actually then spurs more word of mouth towards or better goodwill with your guest. If the stay goes flawlessly from start to finish, then people are like, oh, that's the way it works. It would have been a normal property management type of experience. But where the company really gets a chance to showcase their ability to troubleshoot or resolve issues quickly, that then escalates the goodwill and the reputation of your business. So,
and it's great that you say that, because a lot of our reviews will call out negative things that happened. The dryer stopped working or something happened, but they responded quickly and took care of the issue, and we still got a 5-star review. So for us, it's saving that review, but also generating the goodwill by showing that we care enough to actually fix it.
Yeah. And I think your story of hyper growth is a very common one in the space, in which people are like, we need to add listings, more listings, more listings. And then the customer experience or the guest experience comes second to that. But it seems like you guys did a tremendous job of kind of scaling your guest experience as you were growing, and then kind of coming to this realization of, we can't keep throwing that many resources at the problem. We need to get smarter on the tech side, right? We need to enable solutions across the board without losing kind of that high-end kind of luxury experience that we've already built up.
Exactly.
Cool. Which is a great segue to Suneel. Suneel, you're up next, and to tell us a little bit about GuestView.
So my name is Suneel Goud, and I run the GuestView Guide team at Sharp NEC, which is actually 2 big multinational companies, Sharp Electronics and NEC Display Solutions. So we're a product by that joint venture. Our product is actually a digital concierge that helps guests with elevating the guest experience, streamlining operations to save time, and helping to generate more revenue. And so I think, some of the things that Chet talked about, I think I'm going to focus on a lot of those things. So first of all, I think one of the things that we're seeing for sure, and Paul mentioned it, is that the competition is up, and that there are a lot more listings in the market today. And Paul mentioned that he was seeing that the occupancy was up. We've kind of heard mixed things. So we've definitely heard some people in some markets saying that the occupancy that they're seeing it's starting to soften. And one of the things that we really believe is that there are things that you can specifically do to address these. And number one is around differentiation. And so That is just a critical thing in terms of when you look at competition that's out there and the listings, is really looking at how do you differentiate your property from all the other ones. Because yes, when they're looking through that, they're trying to figure out, okay, out of these 100 properties, what's going to make me weed some of these things out? And so helping to figure out the things that really kind of catch their attention is really important. And I think that is not only important in attracting guests, but also in attracting owners and showing that you're doing something different that really helps to elevate their property. The second thing is, making sure that once you get a guest through the door, is that you really impress them, and so that you give them the information that they need, help make sure that they feel pampered, essentially, so that they're going to have a great experience, leave good reviews, tell people, and come back. And we think that technology is one thing that can really help with that, both in terms of differentiation as well as impressing the guests, because I think technology, whether it's our product or other products in the market, can really help in a scalable way, making sure that you're servicing that customer to the best of your ability, and then kind of dealing with things that you can't automate on a more manual level in face-to-face type of interactions. So I mentioned GuestView Guide. it helps around like enhancing the guest experience, saving time, earning more. But I think like if you look at it from the guest perspective, from the different perspective of the different constituents, whether it's the guest, I think technology there is helping to make them enjoy the property more, so they can get in there, they can figure out what's what, feel at home instantly, and also discover things in the local area that they might not otherwise find. For the owners, that technology is helping in terms of differentiating the property, but also helping to just promote that really good guest experience. And then there's a lot of benefits for property managers that they can get out of technology, whether that is attracting new owners or driving better reviews, but also things like automating repetitive tasks. Like that's one of the things that you see with a lot of technology today, is that you can take things that you're doing over and over and really automate those. And Chet mentioned some things about that, about the learnings that they had. And also looking for opportunities to really put value-added services in front of them and in front of those guests, and make their stay even better. And so I think that one of the key things that we've seen is that it's critical that like whatever mechanism that you're using, is that you really get the guest to notice what you're doing. So that technology, so it could be like sending out reminders or other things to make sure that they know like where to find the information. With our product, what we do is we have this large screen and we have a welcome message, and so that in and of itself a lot of times helps draw people in and makes them curious and want to interact. But the other thing is like making them realize that you are the one that's providing that experience. And so using whatever tools to or information that you put in the unit. So we have like a welcome video, for instance, that gives you an opportunity to say, hey, welcome to them to the property, tell them a little bit about you, make it feel a little bit personal, and tell them like what they can find on the device. And all those types of things, I think, just help to elevate that experience and make it feel like it's not just a place to stay, right? This is something that like this property manager is there like taking care of me. And I think that those types of little interactions are really critical. And the other thing is just making sure that whatever you're using, is that you're making sure that you make it easy for that guest to find the information about the property and the local area. Because the reality is they're walking into these properties a lot of time and they don't really know like how to use things, whether it's the stove or the jacuzzi, and so trying to make that information accessible and easy to navigate is really critical, because ultimately that helps reduce that friction and creates a happier guest and a better experience. But also, like, right now, in terms of the labor shortage that a lot of people are seeing right now, this is critical because, like, you want your staff focused on things that are really proactively enhancing the experience or on revenue generating activities, and not dealing reactively to a lot of problems that could have easily been headed up just by because they are the same things that are coming up over and over, and just making sure that guest finds that information. And also, I think, the reality is especially with people that are coming from hotels and things today, you have a lot more people that are crossing over from hotels, and they're discovering the benefits of vacation rentals. And but they get there sometimes and they haven't planned everything out. And so being able to discover things, about the local area. On our product, we do have features that really help to promote that discovery, or things like local activities, restaurants, and insider tips, right? Because I think you as a property manager, when you think about differentiating yourself, one of the real significant things that you can do is to help them find those hidden gems in the area and explain to them like why to do that. And maybe if you have a partnership with some of those local businesses, is to offer them something special. Maybe if they go to that restaurant, they get a 20% discount off their bill or something, and kind of bringing that information to light is something that can really help make that up level that experience. The other thing is just automating repetitive tasks, as I talked a little bit about earlier, but things like notifications. If you're like calling to remind your guest every week about taking out the garbage, those are things that you don't want to be like spending the valuable time that you have with your staff. You can automate some of those types of tasks using technology, or doing things like making that guest, like if there's a special event going on, maybe there's a holiday parade going on downtown, or maybe it's someone's birthday, right? Those little touches that, like, if you can just put that in the moment that you're taking that reservation, it's their birthday on this date, have something pop up and say, "Happy birthday, Sally," can be really impactful in making that guest feel special. Or other things like checkout, just knowing, those things, and automating things, whether it's the checkout process itself or things that are related to it, like maybe a late checkout or other things like that. So, and the other thing that I would say is around earning more revenue. And I think there are a lot of ways to do that, whether you have your own things that you're offering as a service. And so a lot of people don't always take advantage of charging for late checkouts, but guests a lot of times are ready to pay for that. And especially if they can do that in an easy way, like where I don't even have to call anyone, right? I know that it's $50. I can just click on it and be done with it. That takes friction out of the process for the guest, and they can spend more time enjoying their vacation. Or maybe there's something, like a local spa that you can work with, and because you're in a town where a lot of people take advantage of those types of things. And so you can use this like the device to either like take a revenue share, or we have a lot of folks that actually use it for ad revenue, where they charge a per unit device. But whatever technology that you use is like really thinking about like finding those things that up level the experience of the guest. And then lastly, what I'll say is, making it easy through end to end through that process. So, on our device, we do take payment and we send that information to the phone. We do that because we also want to make sure that we respect the privacy of those guests and that they don't feel like they're putting information into the device. I think that that's a really important thing whenever you select, is that you make sure that that guest feels like they're protected. And then lastly, I think it's important to understand, whatever you try, I think it's always an evolution, and I think you're going to get better and better in understanding your guests. And so having the information, the analytics is really critical. So when you look at different tools and things that are out there, I think it's important to make sure that those things have a good analytics, and that can help you understand the behaviors and the preferences of your guests. So that's a little bit about our product and just some general information. But we'd love to have you, if you're interested in learning more about GuestView Guide, come to our website. You can sign up for a demo there. And we do have a webinar special going on, which is between now and next Friday. If you purchase a device, which is $40 a month per unit, the shipping is normally $25 for the device. But we're going to waive that for people on this webinar. So that's all I have right now. Great. If there are any other questions, I'm open to those.
Great, Suneel. Thank you very much. I mean, we talked about it earlier when we were practicing, that just the ability to reduce that friction within the first 15 minutes of a guest walking into a unique experience. So the ability to know how to work the thermostat, or where do I find extra towels or linens or anything like that, and having that right there on that friendly screen it's a lifesaver in terms of the amount of volume of calls that you'll receive, right? And so you're completely taking that friction off the table.
Definitely. I mean, I'm just going to make two quick comments. One is about that, like, we had a customer just the other day that I was talking to, that they're a small, they have about 50 properties, but they were telling me that on average that they were getting about 12 calls a day about things in their units. Mm-hmm. And when they used this technology, that they were finding that their call volume dropped to like around two calls per day. Which is significant because they are now able to go focus on other things, right? And not be dealing with problems. And the guests don't really want to be calling and sitting on the phone for 15 minutes with them either. The other thing is, like, you mentioned, we were talking with Chet about, taking care of problems and turning those around. And it's really interesting. It's like, we have a few customers that tell us, like, we have a first impression survey, and when the guest walks through the door, one of the first questions we ask them is, what do you think of the place? And if it's like a poor review, we send that through text to the operator, to the property manager. And some of our customers tell us, like, that single thing is the most valuable thing, because it's like, I like the way that someone put this the other day. They said, it's not, you're always going to have problems, but it's what you do about it that makes the difference, whether that person has a positive or a negative experience, right? So yep. Whether you do the right thing and you act fast. So I think, like, I totally agree with what you were saying, Chet, and what you echoed there, Paul.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Thank you very much, Suneel, for giving us a little bit more detail into GuestView Guide. All right. And last but not least, Thomas. Let's learn a little bit about Dack.
All right, I'm Thomas Schaper from Dack, and Dack is a all-in-one guest experience platform that lives on your mobile device. If you think about it, if you put yourself in the guest perspective, and this is kind of how we started the company, everything in the guest journey is pretty much digital and mobile driven. So if you think about it, they're exploring on Instagram and Facebook. They're talking with friends about where they want to go. They end up booking generally on their mobile device, right? On the Kayak app, Booking.com, Airbnb, Vrbo app. They get to the airport. They generally check in with the Delta or American app, right? They use Clear to get to the airport. They use Uber or Lyft to get to the property, or Google Maps on their phone. And then they get to the accommodation, and there's this sort of digital gap, or digital void is what we call it in travel today. And so that's what we're trying to fix. And so what we created is an all-in-one, start to finish, check-in to check-out guest solution. It has everything from instructions on how to get there and integrations with Uber and Lyft. There's a built-in check-in and verification portal. There's one-touch Wi-Fi. You can add friends and family to your stay. You can do digital access management. There's a property guide, local guide. You can also add upsells and customizable stay options. You can do a checkout flow as well, and the guests can rebook with you directly as well, all in the application. What we've seen today is a tremendously high engagement rate with guests. On average, they download the app about 31 days ahead of check-in. We see about 12 interactions per stay. And the average download rate across all our operators, whether they're optimized or not, is around 78 to 80%. We do have operators that reach as high as 120, 140%. And the way they achieve that is they have both the primary booker and additional guest added, signing up for that stay. So you get all of that data as an operator and you can market to all those guests directly. What we've also seen, and we've confirmed how guests feel about technology, is going back to our operators and their reviews. They specifically mention either digital experience or Dack in the reviews, operators that use Dack. And I love some of these comments. The process was completely digital. The Dack app was intuitive. It made it easy to find recommendations and house information, stuff like that. So your guests are definitely wanting this. They will have better feedback for you. And it's definitely matching the market there. What we have found is that, and I think Chet mentioned this earlier, is, not everyone wants to download an app. So we have a lot of versatility in the product. We have both a web version, an iOS version, and an Android version. So we offer Dack kind of any flavor that the guest wants. Even though you have this really high engagement rate, we kind of want that last mile, you could say, or last percentage of guests to engage with you. So we offer that web version as well. Overall, our tips for mastering guest experience, I would say start simple, give guests options and flexibility, monitor your ROI, try new things, automate where possible. And the easiest way to get started is with a technology roadmap. So I'll just hit a couple of those as we go here. Monitoring ROI, technology should pay for itself. And we generally see about a 17% lift to operators' bottom line when they use Dack. And they get this through a variety of ways, right? They get this through additional upsell revenue. They get it through guest data for marketing. They get more direct bookings and rebookings. They get better reviews and more loyalty. And generally, as Suneel was mentioning, they reduce costs from streamlined operations, right? So you have less call volume, you have less, you can automate repetitive tasks, as Suneel was mentioning, all through guest technology, and which is very important. And upsells is a huge part of what we do at Dack. We kind of have three flavors of upsells, we would describe it. So you have pre-built upsells that you can get started with right away. Those are integrations with companies like Viator, BabyQuip, luggage storage through a company called Bounce, right? And then our friends at Mount as well. Those are one-click installations. You can start populating that content to guests right away. You can create your own custom offerings, right? So that's something like dynamic early check-in or late checkout, pet fees, pool heating, all that. Mentioning the holidays here, you can add stuff like holiday decorations or Thanksgiving meals, something cool like that. And then the last thing I'd say is you could connect to local vendors, right? And Chet mentioned this as well. There's a lot of vendors out there, masseuses, personal chefs, boat guides, rental companies that want your business. It's a great way to drive the local economy. It's also a great way to build goodwill in the local area in case any legislation, anything that comes up in your town. You want to let people know that, hey, these short-term rentals are really driving the local economy. And you can do that in the Dack app by adding those vendors and automatically sending those vendors the guest request and not having to do any extra work with that at all. So we really want you to make more money without doing extra work. And that's kind of the name of the game with the upsell platform there. In general, we see about a 40% attach rate on guests that do download the app. So they are willing to spend money. I think we call it kind of vacation mode spending. This is why you spend $40 on a pina colada at the pool at the hotel. You get into a mindset, you want to spend money and you're on a trip. And this is a great way to capitalize on that. Automation is key. So there's a list of automations here. I don't need to go through all of them, but as you start to build out your tech more and more, there's a lot you can do. You can get notified when a guest checks out, when a poor review, a check-in happens. You can offer dynamic early check-in or late checkout. You can turn thermostats off when they leave. You can also integrate with noise aware and start getting alerts to the guests when they breach noise thresholds. Receive batteries for low locks and stuff like that. So a lot of different stuff you can do with automation if you really build out the platform fully. So we kind of say set a digital roadmap. This is the easiest way to get started with tech. If you look at the whole platform or any tech platform in general, it can be daunting, overwhelming. You don't want to build out pages of content. You don't want to add, you don't want to create upsells. It's a little bit overwhelming. You definitely don't want to necessarily have to purchase locks and thermostats and add all these things. But if you start in baby steps, start with the platform and kind of grow into it, it makes it a lot easier to kind of go. So we say start with the pre-built content that Dack offers. That includes the pre-built upsell integrations, local recommendations, stuff like that. then you can start to customize your property guide based on the questions you get every day. As Suneel mentioned, the more content you add in there, the less calls you're going to get, right? And then you can start to customize upsells and play around with upsells as much as you can. We had one operator that did not want to do upsells at all. So we said, try early check-in. He said, I did not want to try early check-in. We said, okay, then just charge $150 for it. He started getting early check-in requests. He says, I still don't want this. We said, okay, go up to 200. He said, I still don't want this. We said, go up to 250. And he's like, okay, well, that's enough money. I'm going to start doing this. And I started doing early check-ins. And so I think it's a great thing is try it, see how much money you can make. If you're making money from it, then you'll start to enjoy it and you can add more and more upsells there. Eventually you want to go fully digital. So you can add the thermostats, the locks, you can add guest verification, you can add noise monitoring and all of that and build it all into an automated system. And that's kind of where you end up at stage 5 here is where you can really start to have money coming in your sleep. You can have alerts and resolutions going on without your interaction and involvement. And as Suneel mentioned, you can free up your staff for more important tasks like customer service and really engaging on, personalized stay experiences there. So that's kind of a quick rundown of what we do and what we offer. Our webinar promo here is you can get free onboarding if you sign up and mention this webinar. Here's my contact information. So feel free to email me or call me directly and we can set you up with a demo and get you connected with our customer success team as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thomas, thank you very much for walking through Dack with us. I think that that again, what we're seeing both from GuestView Guide and from Dack is the ability to kind of have those impressions from your guest being absorbed by the digital application and not by human resources. So if you're getting, I think you mentioned on average 12 interactions with Dack per stay. I mean, that's taking 12 questions off the table from your support team.
Yeah, we kind of say it's 12 less phone calls or it's 12 opportunities to upsell to that guest, right? Either way. And I think when you have all that content in the app, like access information and the property guide, this is kind of your way to get the guest into the app, but now you can kind of then market to them additional things that they might not have thought of during their stay.
Yeah. I mean, I really like that too. And kind of that's a great segue into kind of today's panel discussion, which is, you talked about the potential 12 upsell opportunities for the guests. So I guess the first panel question would be to you, Thomas, which is where should property managers who aren't necessarily capitalizing on upsells, how should they start forming their upsell strategy? And what are some of the quick wins on the upsell side that they can, that aren't going to offend their guests?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most obvious one is always, early check-in, late checkout. As I mentioned, we had that operator that didn't want to do it at all. So we just said, set a really high price for it. And eventually it got to a price where it was worth it. We've had operators say, I have higher end units and, guests at higher end units have paid a lot. So it's nice to let them in early. Surprisingly, those guests are willing to pay even more for it. And so I think if you have locks connected with Dack and you have a check-in time today, say it's like 4 o'clock, if you bump that up to let's say, bump it up an hour and then start getting that easy win of, guest paying to check in an hour early or 2 hours early. What we do is we automatically update that lock and we can set some auto approval features in there as well. So like say the unit's vacant the day before or the day after, what's great is you can auto approve that upsell for late checkout if the unit's vacant anyways. And now you're making money on a unit that was vacant and you weren't going to utilize the next day anyways.
Okay, cool. So same question, but a little bit different, right? You're talking about early check-ins, late checkouts. I feel like a lot of people know those. What's an upsell maybe that's less known, but more effective or has a higher win rate than check-in?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think we've had some operators do tremendously well with stuff that we didn't even think about necessarily. One operator actually in the Miami area absolutely crushes it with pack and plays. So they have pack and plays in a closet in every unit. The guest requests the pack and play. It's like $50 or $60. They take the pack and play, set it up, during housekeeping, and then they put it back in the closet when it's done. It's an easy win. It's right there. It's locked in a closet. You don't have to do much work. The cleaning staff can take care of it. I think we mentioned during the call earlier this week is we had an operator last year do holiday decorations. Guests were coming in and paying for holiday decorations, except for the operator wasn't actually taking them down between stays. So whether you paid for it or not, you got the holiday decorations. But it was an easy win for them. Little work. You put some garland up and some lights, and away you go. So there's a lot of creative stuff like that that you can do, and the more operators kind of see the revenue and their lights, their eyes light up, and they see the revenue coming in, the more excited they get, the more creative they get.
Yeah. I love that holiday decoration idea, by the way, because if somebody pays for it, they go, wow, this was well worth it. Look at all these decorations. And if somebody chooses not to pay for it, they go, wow, what a great experience. Look at all the holiday decorations that they put up for us. So it's a win-win across the board for sure. All right, Suneel, moving to you. You showed at the very end of your presentation some really interesting kind of analytics, right? And I believe that there was something in there about like you can add revenue. Can you speak a little bit about some of the primary analytics that your users can pull from the device? And then how do they monetize the device to kind of subsidize the cost that they would be paying to GuestView?
So first of all, I think analytics are really important because I think the more you know about the behaviors and preferences of your guests, the more you're going to be able to really hone in on driving the right message. So when you look at our analytics, we focus on a few different things. So number one is just usage. So understanding how many guests that come and stay in the property are actually interacting with the device. And then once they are using that, what types of things are they doing on it? So they're using things around the restaurant recommendations, or maybe they're looking at the services or other things like that, knowing that type of information. Things around advertising. So how many times is an ad displayed? How many people actually click on that? How many people request it and ultimately purchase it? And then how much revenue is generated off of that? Right now we have some basic analytic tools in there. We are actually about to roll out a whole new set of analytics tools specifically around the advertising features. So you can understand, like, maybe that ad, when you look at it at a global perspective, it tends to be more effective in certain markets than other markets, in other properties or other markets. And so you can look at a global level and start to like understand what's going on with your advertising. And then lastly is around satisfaction. So we have things around check-in and check-out that you can understand, like that guest satisfaction. But coming back to your question, how do people monetize the product? So there are two ways that we have guests that are monetizing our product directly today. So one is where they're taking a revenue share off of other services that they're selling. Actually, I'll say three. The other one is like where they're selling their own services, some of them that they might not have been selling before, like a late checkout, right? And then the third way is that we have a number of customers that are using it as an advertising tool where they're working with local businesses, and those businesses pay a per unit advertising fee to have that ad shown a certain number of times. And so that helps them to offset the cost of the device too. The last thing I'll say is, like, there's not only things about like revenue generation in terms of offsetting costs, but both what Thomas talked about and myself around like offsetting things like, basically offloading the work from your staff. There's a real cost to that if you are spending, if you have staff that's servicing the customer, and if you can reduce that, that's a direct drop to the bottom line in terms of savings. So those are some of the ways that we provide a return on investment.
Yeah, I mean, I really love hearing about these guest experience tools because they're essentially profit centers for the property management company at the end of the day when they're implemented effectively and efficiently, right? And you get so much insight into what your guests are looking for, where you can even further tailor services and solutions to the type of persona that you guys are picking up within, your property management company. All right.
Yeah, I love. Can I jump in there? Yeah,
Please.
I love what Suneel mentioned too about like differentiating yourself with the property owners. I think that's key, and we've definitely heard that a lot. We're just saying you use guest technology, you use smart locks, use anything like that. It's a clear winner. Like and even it's a small difference, right? And it's easy to implement, but property owners are getting sold from Vacasa, right? They're getting sold from the big guys. If you're going up against the big guys, I think you gotta have what they have as well,
Yeah, exactly right. I almost feel like a few years ago, we kept hearing about kind of smart locks and how it was kind of coming up, and it's a great value add. And then it became kind of this table stakes. If you want to be a successful PMC, you kind of need to have this contactless check-in experience through smart locks. I feel like a lot of these guest applications are moving in that same kind of direction of, in order to really, even just to kind of keep up with the minimum standard of today's property management experience, that guest experience application is going to be so critical for a lot of property management companies. It's going to be an expectation of guests.
I also think COVID helped push that along too, because it became contactless. Nobody wanted to meet you. I know for a lot of our homes, they were adamant that nobody was at the home when we got there, that nobody met them for check-in or check-out, that nobody visited the home throughout their stay. So it's how do you offer these things that you normally do face-to-face, or things that, feel more luxury digitally. So these applications have definitely helped fill that gap.
By the way, everyone, those pictures that you were showing in your presentation are your actual listing. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. All those photos are ours.
That wasn't stock photography, folks. That's actually, what KFE Management is putting out there on the market. All right. But we know that you're kind of managing both kind of that luxury listing that we saw in those images, as well as some of that middle tier listings. And so what learnings have you taken from the luxury side on the client experience or the guest experience? Sorry, I keep using client because I work with clients, but you guys work with guests. So guest experience on the luxury side. What learnings have you taken there that you could apply to create a luxury type of experience, even though someone may not be paying that luxury price?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we find that the more expensive the stay, the less requests they have, which is something we would intuitively you would think would be different. But what we did and what we realized is that we're offering a lot of things in the homes natively. So for example, Thomas had mentioned upselling pack and plays. So we found that with these big homes, because they're families, they're people staying together, they all needed pack and plays, they all needed high chairs. So what we did is we actually standardized that across every one of our homes. Every home, based on the number of bedrooms, has pack and place high chairs, no additional cost in the house. So a lot of times people will get there and they'll be like, oh my God, I was about to go out to the store to buy one, but we found it. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Additionally, things that we offer to the more higher end homes, we have a concierge. He will actually call them, ask them, hey, what's your trip's purpose? What are you looking for, boat, chef, etc. We don't necessarily need to have him reach out to the mid-tier homes, but we can still offer everything he would offer as a menu of items, saying, hey, you're here, take a look at this list. If it's anything you're interested in, let us know and we can help facilitate. So it becomes much more cookie cutter, but it's still offering those premium services without the hand holding that is expected of the more affluent homes. So it just becomes creating a product offering that on the back end is the same amount of work. We still have to communicate with the chef, we still have to communicate with the masseuse or the boat, but it's a lot quicker to turn over those mid-tier homes because they'll just immediately say, yes, we want to look into this, this, and this, or no, we're not really interested in that.
Got it. Okay. Fantastic. Well, guys, it looks like we're coming up on time. If I could take some key takeaways about what we talked about today, it is taking a bad situation and creating the most positive experience that you possibly can for your guests in that first resolution. It's about the ability to actually help monetize some of these guest experience tools, and also reduce the friction for your organizations internally by taking away that call volume or those simple questions that can be addressed through kind of a very interactive guest book. And then Chet, if we learn from you, it's the attention to detail and actually maybe not necessarily monetizing every little thing like a pack and play or something like that. If you're offering that to be inclusive, that really provides that kind of extra luxury experience for the guest that's staying. So Chet, Suneel, Thomas, thank you guys very much for joining us today on this webinar. I really appreciate it. Last bit, it seems like it just happened and it's happening again. GuestView is going to be in Tel Aviv from May 8th to May 10th. So already start your planning, start looking at flights, start looking at short-term rental accommodations in Tel Aviv. It is a party. Anybody, we heard Chet bring up GuestView earlier today and how much he learned about kind of some of the digital partners that are involved in Guesty's marketplace. It's a great opportunity to network and to actually learn more about the tech innovations that are happening across the entire space. Plus, Tel Aviv is awesome. So make your way out to Israel and celebrate with Guesty. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you to our panelists one last time.